Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down one of the toughest issues in Massachusetts right now, the housing crisis. We're going to look at just how big the problem is, what the state's ambitious plan is to fix it, and how much progress they're actually making.
So if you live in Massachusetts, or have even tried to, you have definitely asked yourself this question. It can feel like a never-ending battle with sky-high prices and just nothing available. Okay, let's really dive into this and look at the numbers behind all that frustration. 220,000. That's the number of new homes the state figures it needs by the end of the decade just to meet demand. That is a massive deficit, and it pretty much sets the stage for everything else we're about to talk about. So keep that number in your head as we go.
Okay, so this isn't just about things being expensive. It's a deep, fundamental problem with supply. For years, the state has been really struggling to build enough new homes to keep up with its own success, its growing economy and population. And here it is, the core of the supply problem. While the need for housing is through the roof, the actual pace of building new homes in Massachusetts is way behind most other states. Sixth lowest in the entire country. That's a tough statistic.
Now, take a look at this chart. It really lays it out visually. You see Massachusetts down there at 201 permits. That's already well below the national average of 281. But the real shocker? Look at Maine right next door. They're permitting new homes at more than double the rate. It really puts the problem in perspective.
So what's being done about it? Well, the Healey-Driscoll administration has rolled out a really comprehensive strategy. They're not treating this like a single issue you can solve with one law. They're treating it like a complex problem that needs a whole toolkit of solutions, a playbook, if you will.
And the centerpiece of that whole playbook is the Affordable Homes Act. This thing is a massive piece of legislation. We're talking about a historic investment, really, designed to attack the housing shortage from a bunch of different angles.
So what's actually in the act? Well, it's not just one big blank check. It's a collection of smart, targeted programs. You've got the Momentum Fund to get stuck projects moving again. They've made it easier to get permits for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, those small in-law apartments or backyard cottages. And they're creating new incentives for creative ideas, like turning empty office buildings into housing.
Now, it's not just about new laws. The strategy also means really enforcing and building on laws that are already on the books. A huge one is the MBTA Communities Act. The MBTA is the Boston area's transit system, and this law basically says, hey, if you're a town with a train or subway stop, you need to change your zoning to allow for more apartments and condos nearby. It just makes sense.
And this part is actually pretty brilliant. They are getting creative about just finding space. Instead of letting good land sit empty, the state is actively looking at its own property, surplus land, that can be turned into new housing.
So how much land are we talking about? Over 450 acres so far. The potential here is just huge. That could mean over 3,500 new homes, all built on these underused lots, turning them into actual communities.
Okay, so we've got the playbook, we've got all these initiatives, but is any of it actually working? What are the results on the ground? Well, the state has launched what it calls a digital thermometer to track everything, which makes the data transparent for everyone to see.
And here's the headline number they're pointing to, 90,354. Now, that's the total number of new housing units that are either done, being built right now, or are in the development pipeline since Governor Healey took office.
So let's look at this table and see how that big number breaks down. You can see the units are coming from all over the place. The new Momentum Fund and the simpler rules for ADUs, they've added hundreds of units each. But the really big chunks come from state-funded projects and the new zoning laws. And see that line for comprehensive permits, or 40B? That's a powerful state law that lets developers bypass some local zoning rules if they include affordable units. This chart makes that breakdown even clearer, but I want you to look at that massive 70% slice, the one labeled Additional Housing Development. This is a really key insight. It means that while all these state programs are helping, the vast majority of new housing is still coming from private market rate construction. And that definitely adds to the overall supply, but it also raises the big question of affordability. So having over 90,000 units in the pipeline is a big deal, no question. But what does it really mean when you put it next to that 220,000 unit deficit we talked about at the very beginning?
Well, here's how the administration is framing it. Governor Healey's message is essentially, look, we started in a huge hole that was decades in the making, and now we're making real, tangible progress climbing out of it. It's a message about momentum.
But to get the full picture, you really have to look at both perspectives here. On the one hand, you have this official optimism, with the governor saying they're not just going to meet the goal, they're going to beat it. On the other hand, you have more sobering analysis from groups like Boston Indicators. They say yes, the progress is real, but they call it modest when you compare it to the absolute mountain of need that's out there.
So the crucial takeaway here seems to be that the state's strategy is working. It's putting a dent in the housing deficit. But the road to true affordability for everyone, that road is long. This is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint.
And that really leaves us with the big question moving forward, doesn't it? The playbook is open, the pieces are in motion, and thousands of homes are on the way. But for the hundreds of thousands of people struggling with housing costs right now, today, will it be enough? And more importantly, will it be fast enough? The clock is definitely ticking.